All right, welcome everybody back to Phlox'em. Again, sorry it's been kind of spotty with the uploads on these. Trying to get more recorded here today now that I have kind of at least a little bit of a free weekend, but uh, yeah, work stuff, life stuff has still just been crazy, so it's probably going to be closer to one or two videos a week until kind of get a little bit more of a consistent schedule. But there's been so much happening this week with Keyforge that I really wanted to get a couple things done today, recorded along with some gameplay. So we're going to start out with a couple different things, just talking through some news stuff, especially because there's been a lot of Keyforge news. But before we get into anything else, something momentous has happened, and the greatest Phlox'em content has already been made, and it was not by me. If any of you caught the SAS Climb stream by Zach and Hyper, uh, oh man, I was not there live, but it was just so good. They sang. They were kind of doing it while they were playing, but they sang "Gotta Flock 'Em All" to the theme of the Pokemon theme song, and it was just so fantastic. I'm so mad that I wasn't there to see it live. Um, But I did just want to start out by saying, if you guys ever want to help make me a intro theme song to the tune of Pokemon's Gotta Catch 'Em All, I am so down for that. I need to figure out how to edit it into my videos. I'm still learning a lot about that side of things and just need to spend time on it. But that was fantastic. So if y'all haven't watched their SAS Climb videos, they're great. They're just streaming them. I think the schedule is Tuesday nights. Zach Leg Week on Twitch. Definitely worth watching. Really fun stuff. Lots of those really kind of some of my favorite types of decks. Just like the low SAS, gimmicky. They're just kind of going through. I think it's if a deck loses twice, they move on to just the next one up in their collection of going by SAS. And so, really fun gameplay. Great stream. Those guys are awesome. But man, it just made me so happy. It made me a little disappointed that I will never do anything that fun or funny, but I don't need to. That's why there's those people. I can be just I don't know. That's, yeah. I'll do my own stuff. I'll do the gameplay and deep dives and stuff, but man, it's so good. So again, if you guys ever want to help me make a theme song, I am here and I am for it. But let's get into the bigger stuff, and this is probably what a lot of people have been talking about. So obviously, Gen Con going on this weekend right now. Ghost Galaxy is there with Keyforge, and from everything I've seen on Discord, social media, and stuff, it's been wildly successful. Like they've had way more people than they've expected. I think they said they finally sold out of both the Keyraken and Dark Discovery Keyforge Adventures, which as soon as those go live on the online shop, I'm definitely going to buy some of those. I'm so glad that they printed them. I'm glad they made a Nightmare Node mode. I think that'd just be such an awesome thing for them to expand in, especially doing it right now while we're waiting for this next set, while they're doing other things. Like, it's just such a good kind of intro back into the game because it's a great way for new players to play because they kind of just get to set up this thing even if they don't have online local play going on. They can just play against the Keyrack and then learn the mechanics of the game in kind of a very easy self-taught environment. So I think that's awesome. They also had massive Keyrack and playmats, which looks so cool. And they had a bunch of decks for sale and everything. And I saw they did a sealed event. I think I saw like 192 people at least signed up for it, which is crazy. So just I'm over the moon with how much stuff is happening, how much Ghost Galaxy is doing to like just show how much they love this game and how much they want it to succeed, and the community is responding, and that's like all we could hope for in what's going on. Now, with that, there's obviously been a pretty big announcement about the the launch on Gamefound. So there's so much to talk about with this, obviously, and I am not on the game store, like small business. Like, there's so much business side about what's happening here that I don't really have a great understanding of. And so I'm probably going to leave some of that to, I think Nathan from Tabletop Royale is definitely going to talk a lot more to that side of what this looks like. I know some other people have been talking on Discord about like pros and cons of this happening from like a business standpoint. I think for the most part, it's seen as a fairly like, it makes sense. It's not terrible. It's not amazing. It's just like, this is the direction they're trying to go. And that's fine. Like it's not anything like crippling or like terrible that the community is seeing, but I think from a fan standpoint, there's a lot of good stuff to take from this. One, this means they're trying to retain ownership, right? They, instead of going into other investors, they want to just try and get the seed money to launch the first set, which, based on what they've already seen at Gen Con, hopefully this first set that they come back with will be enough to just keep the game going and make it successful for them as a business, because they are a business. They do need to make money. And hopefully this just kind of gives them the chance to do that from the first set without having to get too much outside ownership. In the company. But there's so many other things. One, just the visibility. Like it's already, I think someone said like the fifth most followed game on Gamefound right now, which I have very little experience with both Gamefound and Kickstarter. I think I've kickstarted like one game, and that was Soulforge Fusion, which I used to play the old version of. So I just kickstarted it because I was excited for it to come back. Um, so I have super little experience with those kind of things. But just the fact that it's on one of those platforms, it brings it back into the public's eye. So you're going to have new players seeing it who are just going on those sites looking for new board games to get into. I think it will also be a really cool thing for people who maybe left Keyforge a while ago, haven't been following the new news, to basically get a refresher and see, oh, this is owned by a new company. This is owned by Ghost Galaxy. Let me see what they're doing with it, because there's a lot of people who've been burned by Fantasy Flight, and that's a very legitimate thing. And to have this game that we love now in the hands of people who we've already seen like love it, I think it's going to be huge from the marketing perspective to kind of get it back into people's get it back into the front of people's minds. And so from that sense, I think putting it on GameFound is like a super great decision for them, because again, it just is almost like it's not free advertising. I don't exactly know how much they have to pay to launch something on GameFound or whatever. I don't exactly know how all of that side works, but just to get it out again, kind of show people, hey, this game is definitely not dead. We have to do some work to kind of get the next set off the ground. We're very confident once that happens, then it will be very self-sustaining after that. Um, if you've never heard of this, this is the amazing game that we just purchased, and we're all about it now, and let's make this thing happen. So I think there's just so much cool stuff with that. It's also just another platform for them to communicate with their customers and fans. Uh, like the Kickstarter I did for Soulforge Fusion, I was getting emails like, for a while it was like every week, and then it kind of went to like every couple of weeks just as they were continuing production and stuff. But it's just another avenue for them to say like, hey, here's one other cool thing we're doing, or like even for us to give feedback. I think that's one of the things that happens on Kickstarters a lot, is that there's feedback back from the fans about just like, hey, maybe you should kind of add in this, or here's a cool idea for a backer reward or whatever. Here's some ideas for OP, especially for like stores that are backing it or whatever. I think there's so much cool there, just with them being able to communicate with us while they're kind of building those things, and then us be able to give feedback without them having to have invested in that huge launch first. I think that was some of obviously one of the things that happens when you initially launch a game is that you kind of don't know a lot of things until it's actually in people's hands. And this is a way where we can kind of start giving some of that feedback before it's back in our hands, especially those of us who have been playing the old sets. So I'm I'm pretty excited about it. I'm definitely going to back it. I would love to see if there's anything I can do as a content creator to help promote it and stuff as it's on GameFound. One of the things like specifically I'm really excited about is to see what they do for backer rewards. I know they've already said something about getting a free deck, but I think that's going to give us some really good hints as to how they're planning to do organized play. Because obviously with these kind of Kickstarter games, there's always those different like tiers and backer rewards and like kind of the things you unlock the more people back it and stuff. And those are all probably going to be like extra things, whether it's game mats or like cool token sets and all kinds of those things. I think we're going to get a real hint into what their prize structure for organized play is going to look like based on what they do on this Gamefound. And I think that's just another win for us. We get to, one, get those if we back it, but two, just see like some of those initial hints of like this is what OP is going to look like. And I think that's going to be super awesome too, just to get into. So I'm really excited to see what happens with it. The one thing that scares me a little bit is like timeline for that. I would love for Winds of Exchange to come out like first or second quarter next year. Again, that is not something I have nearly as much experience in kind of saying if that's realistic or not. From what I've seen, most Kickstarter or backer games do take a little bit longer to actually get into people's hands. Soulforge Fusion was that way. It was just like a month or so late, but it's just, that is one of the things that can happen with these kind of launches. So again, hopeful we'll get it sometime early 2023. I don't know if this changes that or not. But again, they're already doing other things to kind of at least give us something like with the Keyforge Adventures. I'm so excited about that because it is just, you can tell they really want this. They really want to make it succeed. They really want to give their fans what the fans have loved so long already. All right, that's my long rant on that. One of the things I haven't done specifically as a creator is talk too much about spoilers. So I'll put a spoiler warning at the front of this. I know most people are probably seeing this already. If they're still following Keyforge, they've seen all of this already. I'm not going to talk too much about the old ones. The token mechanic has been talked about a lot already, and that's something I'll probably talk about more as they give us more spoilers because I'm super, super excited about tokens. I've always loved that. I think it's going to give just so much more uniqueness to the game and everything. But maybe we'll do another video about that sometime. So we're just going to talk about these three here because obviously they're the newest ones, and I think they give us some indications of the power level of this set. Because I think, for me personally, like Dark Tidings has started really showing its teeth. There's been some much bigger organized play events where Dark Tidings has done really, really well. It's very much an AOA situation where you have those few decks that are just insanely good, but most of the decks feel like they're a little bit underpowered on average. 2 out of 3 of these spoilers are commons, and those two specifically look bonkers crazy to me. So let's get into these. First, Vow of Blood for Brobnar. It's got Enhance for 2 damage, and then play, deal 2 to each damaged enemy creature. So in one sense, it's almost like a reverse Coward's End. It's not technically destroying things unless they only have a couple health left. And it's at uncommon, which is a little weird. This feels much more like a card that you'd rather have like 3 of. So I've seen a lot of people saying like it's not the most overwhelming card in terms of like power level and everything, and I would agree for the most part, but there are a couple really cool things I think we can take from this one. It's got an Amber Pip, which is just great that they're actually kind of uh, putting those in places where they make more sense. I know, especially the first kind of couple sets with Brobnar, it seemed kind of awkward where the Amber Pips got put. It's not alpha or anything ridiculous like that. It's got enhanced for 2 damage, so since Shadows is cycling out, obviously it'd make a lot of sense for Brobnar to kind of pick up the enhanced mechanic. And I don't remember, this might be the first card that we've seen that has the enhanced mechanic, which means enhancements are coming back, which means with tokens and enhancements, the variability and like the uniqueness of these decks in this set is just going to be crazy. There's going to be so much uniqueness. Those damage pips, I think, are going to be way more relevant for in this set because of things like tokens. Which is going to be weird again because those damage pips might end up on a card that gets turned into a token, so you're not actually getting those damage pips. But those damage pips can be very strong against some of these like 1 power tokens we've seen, like Blorb. I think what I really like about this is like flavor-wise and even just kind of what we want to see from Brobnar is we want them to be good at fighting and be rewarded for fighting. And I think this really opens up the chance for fighting to be even more effective. Obviously, we have to see what other cards go along with it, but we've already seen one of their tokens, the Goblin, 2-power creature that has Skirmish. If you have one of these in hand and a couple of those tokens, those now basically are all fighting for 4 damage instead of 2 damage with this. And so that is just, it increases the usefulness of those creatures fighting, which it's a very small increase. Like, again, it's nothing crazy. It's just dealing 2 extra damage to those creatures, but it does incentivize you to fight a little bit more, which is what I think Brobnar it's going to need a lot of in order for it to feel like it's doing what it should as far as the house goes. So my hope is what we see in this set, like based off this card, my hope is we see a lot more skirmish, we see a lot more assault damage, we just see splash damage like Calfine, I don't know how you say it. We see more of those kind of things so that there is just more and more reward for kind of having those stronger fight effects. Obviously, there's a lot more we're going to have to wait and see on, but I think as much as this card isn't like awesome on its own, I really hope um, it is an indication of what the set is going to have in Brobnar moving forward in good or better fight effects, um, winning fights without dying, all kind of that. The other thing on here is it is enemy creature, which is very significant because that again makes it so your guys can fight if they're not going to kill their opponent, but they're also not dying, which is weird. You have to have like armor or something like that, or again skirmish. You can finish off your opponent's creatures without necessarily losing your creatures. Again, it's going to be pretty situational, I think, but who knows? Could be fun. Uh, there's so many things we have to think about with Mars coming back as well. Because Mars has things like Mars needs Amber. And again, we don't know if that's going to be in this set or not, but if you get a Legacy, this would be able to kill those damaged enemy creatures after you've kind of dumped a bunch of Amber on them from Mars. So I think this could synergize with other houses in the set pretty well too. We've already seen the Mars token also that reaps and deals 1 damage. Next turn, play this, kill a bunch of 3-power things that only had 1 damage on them from those Mars creatures. So again, it's not the most amazing card, but I think it could be better than we initially think just looking at it at face value. Now for the 2 nuts cards. This is Generous Offer. It's a Equidon card. It's a common. Destroy a friendly creature. Steal 2 Amber. It does say if you do, so you do have to destroy a friendly creature, which is very significant. You can't play this or get the effect off of it without there being a creature on board for you. And you can't hit a warded creature. You have to destroy a friendly creature. But we have tokens in this set, so that shouldn't be too difficult. Steal 2 at common. That's huge. Especially since it doesn't have to be like a ready creature, so you can use your line, have 2 of these in hand. I think this card is just going to be one of the things that makes this set competitive, because it's just such a strong effect. We have very few Steal 2 effects that are at common on a creature, like, what is it? Evil Twin, Sea Urchin or something does that. There's really not much else. There's a lot of cards that will steal and gain you 1, but this just flat out steals 2. And again, it's at common. Which I think in this set, we'll have to see as more things come out. I wouldn't be surprised if they make the commons almost overpowered because of how the token mechanic works, because you're not going to be as guaranteed to see every card in your deck as you go through it. So my hope is this is almost like a very normal thing to see, that the common cards are almost a little bit overpowered just to help reduce that variance from token generation. We'll see, but so far from these 2 examples, we're going to have that. It's a very simple card, but again, I really think this is an indication of some of the strength we're going to get from Equidon especially. Now, the last card that we're looking at in Ironic's Rebel, obviously there's a little bit of text covered up here, so we can't see all of it. We can tell this is deploy, so this is going anywhere in your battle line, which is awesome. It is at common. It's a something power creature. We don't have that. Martian and Rebel traits, so I'm not exactly sure how much they're going to use that Rebel thing. It seems like that's what the whole set of Mars is going to be themed around, so I'm sure there's going to be lots of cards that reference or use the Rebel trait. So even this card could be using that trait. We'll see, because that's the part that's covered up, but we can definitely tell ready each of Ironic's Rebels blank neighbors. Can't tell if that's play, reap, synth deploy. I would assume that's a play ability. It could be a reap ability, which would be not as good. We'll have to see. But if it's a play ability, oh man. uh, it's not house cheating. We can tell it's only readying. It doesn't say use, so you can't use this on other houses no matter what that reference is there. But that's 2 Mars creature activations if it's just kind of Mars creatures. Um, it could be Martians, it could be tokens. There's so many different things it could be. I think no matter what, that can be 2 free reaps on play. And then if we have anything like key abduction or total recall, you could be playing this guy twice in 1 turn. Oh, and Mars creatures have had some crazy strong abilities in the past, and I don't know. We have to see what the rest of the text says before we can get too far along. But this card makes me so excited. Like, this is what I want in Mars. I am probably going to play a lot of Mars. I'm going to be looking for Mars tokens. I'm really hopeful for things like Zookeeper coming back, because I love that mechanic of kind of stashing your opponent's creatures and stuff. It's just super fun. So we'll see. But this one makes me really, really excited. Especially along with what we've seen from some of the other token things. So like, even if you don't have Mars creatures on the board, something like this could give you Mars creatures. Again, just trying to think of what the actual the rest of that text says. Could be Mars, could be token, could be Martian. Most likely it references Mars creatures of some kind. We've got Space Invaders as another thing that can do that. So again, you drop a couple tokens, you play the Ironics Rebel, and then again, if you have something like a Total Recall or a Key Abduction, you pull all that back to hand, which if those Mars tokens were not Mars creatures, you could then save them and not play them again, so that you have them for a different turn, or if they're like other cards. Oh man, it's going to be so cool. And then with things like this, so again, 1 power creatures probably aren't going to live very long, but if you get to play them that turn and then use them that same turn with Ironics Rebel, it just really increases that value. So again, thinking about if we have things like Mars Needs Amber coming back, that it's a combo play. Like, it's going to take a lot of cards to pull off, which is what Mars should be doing. Mars has always been kind of a combo-y house, but you can just get a lot of synergy out of things like that. Doesn't seem to synergize so much with Blorb, but again, we'll just have to see. Even if there's other Mars creatures, or like, yeah, creatures that can maybe create tokens or something, which maybe there's one that was spoiled a long time ago when it was still FFGs. That very first one that was spoiled. Maybe I should look at that quick. I think it's a play ability that creates a token, but there was. Oh man, I need to use the site more so that I can find this stuff faster. Oh, and I'm not going to remember. Is it? Oh, there we go. I remembered his name. Okay, it's discarded. So again, like, same kind of thing though. If you discard a Mars card, you can create a token, reap with this guy, and then play the Ironics Rebel, ready and reap with this guy and whatever token you just created. So I think there's going to be just some awesome synergies with that. This guy is a rare. I actually just noticed that. That kind of is, I don't know, it's interesting. We'll see what happens. But yeah, just wanted to talk about some of that kind of stuff. These spoilers make me so excited. I can't wait for this set. I'm very, very stoked for it. That was a lot of words pretty fast, but just did want to kind of address some of those things, say some of the stuff that I really haven't talked about as much. Again, I am doing this solo. I feel like there's a lot of things to discuss and questions to ask that a lot of the podcasts are covering, because they actually have more than one person to bounce those things off of. In general, though, I'm so excited for what Ghost Galaxy is doing. I'm fully support them, what they're doing. I think this is just awesome. The amount of information and stuff they're giving is great. So hope this all just makes you guys as excited as I am for what's happening. Again, if you're at Gen Con, go see those guys. Tell them to keep up the good work. And yeah, just excited to see more of what they do. So I'm not going to do any gameplay of this video, just again going through a lot of those things we're talking about. Kind of the final thoughts to leave you with is to get on Discord and look at some of those events that are going on. I know they just recently announced KFPL 5 and all the qualifiers for that. I'm doing the Swindle SAS, what is that? SAS Bound, which is kind of where your SAS cap as a player decreases every time you win, and then it increases every time you lose. So it's kind of like a ladder in that sense, but the goal is basically first person to win with like, I think it's a sub 60 SAS deck, and we started at 85. So that's been a really fun one. I think some of the fire sale ones, well, the first ABR one is I think wrapping up soon, the big sealed one, but I think there's a new fire sale one where they're having you draft decks. So that'll be pretty interesting to see what happens. But again, tons of fun stuff going on. Get on Discord, go find some of those, playing them. It's yeah, it's great. I think there's just awesome stuff happening for this game right now, and excited to see how it keeps moving. So that's it for this video. I'll probably post a gameplay one pretty soon after this, but let me know in the comments what your thoughts on some of these are. Again, I know there's a lot of Gamefound stuff that I probably didn't cover because there's a lot I don't know about it, and other people are going to talk to that, but just want to say my initial excitement about what's happening. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again.